Robert Smith just hasn't stayed healthy, and he also has signed just a one-year contract. A good opportunity here in the running back position, and good value. Big guys who can carry the load.
Dennis Green and company have made a big decision. They offered big bucks and gave big bucks to Brad Johnson, who impressed when he certainly had the opportunity. First, coming off the bench when Moon was hurt, and then leading the Viking system wins. They have a backup now by the name of Randall Cunningham. 1 year removed from the television business now. 2 years removed from the Philadelphia Eagles. Good move, Joe. Can he still play? Is he an asset here?
Absolutely. I think he's a tremendous asset here. I don't any question whatsoever. Randall Cunningham will not be a problem. He'll be a tremendous asset. I spoke to it earlier in the day. I think that football teams like Cincinnati, like Minnesota, who have gone out and signed people as veteran backups who they know can not just go in and be stopgaps, but can go in and win football games. That's going to be the biggest key here. Brad Johnson is the starter without question. Brian Billick likes his ability to make plays with his feet. Well, in Randall Cunningham, you have the same exact situation. As I've spoken to Brian Billick, what he said to me, he says, I need a quarterback that can go out and at least get 2 or 3 first downs by running the football. Certainly Randall Cunningham can do that, and also it takes tremendous pressure off the defense. I think they're in real solid shape at the quarterback position. You've got to have 2 quarterbacks today in football if you want to compete. Look at the 49ers. They've had 2 for a long, long time. Won a number of titles that way. I think it's important. This is a great move.
Well, just as Tommy and Sterling are doing battle on our gridiron, I guess the New York and the Bristol sets have had a little tete-a-tete from time to time. Jaws, Randall Cunningham. Something tells me you're not buying all this.
Yeah, you know, 2 former number 7s, I think we disagree on this one. I really believe if the Vikings wanted 2 or 3 first downs out of Randall Cunningham running the football, make him a running back and not a quarterback. I mean, Randall, when he came in the league in 1985, I thought was going to be one of the great quarterbacks of all time. The problem with Randall Cunningham, he has never been able to play within the system. He has great athleticism, great God-given talent, but he does not stay with the system. I don't see it any different in Minnesota. And maybe to just go a little further on Joe's comments, Rodney Peete had really a tough time with Randall as his backup. I'm not so sure Randall can play the game without having to focus on Randall.
Jaws, I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you why. Oddly enough, I'm sure you know I don't. I think that what Randall tried to do in the West Coast offense, he really tried to discipline himself. He's not built for a West Coast style of offense. I think he really tried to work within the system. I think he tried to stay with the 3- and the 5-step drops. It just wasn't something he could do because of his delivery and also of his ability with his footwork. I think he tried to stay in his system. Brian's is a little bit less restricted. I think he can do it very comfortably. I just don't see him being a problem of being a guy who can be a good backup. Remember, he may only have to play 1 or 2 games, 3 at the most, maybe. If not, I don't think the Vikings lose anything by having him on the football field.
And also, Joe, I think the fact that he was out of football a year, doing what we are now doing, talking about everybody, I think will help Randall Cunningham. I think he realizes what it's going to take to play the position. I think he could get a few more years out of his body in his career. He'd be a very happy camper. I'm going to watch this situation very closely because I know Randall Cunningham can make a contribution to that football team and help them win if called upon. Joe?
See, I knew I could get you to say it my way.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's bring in a guy, Jaws and Joe, that didn't wear number 7, but Chris Myers in Dallas. More on the Randall situation?
Yes, Chris. I was never drafted. I was Mr. Irrelevant when you talk about that. But Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, said, hey, there's 2 things that we need to have happen if we're going to bring Randall Cunningham in here. Number 1, we have to make sure he can still play. And number 2, we have to be sure that he's comfortable being the backup behind Brad Johnson. So Brian Billick was out west, decided to stop off in Las Vegas, have dinner and talk with Randall one night on his own, and then got together with Denny Green, and they talked about the contract. They talked about Randall's attitude, which they were satisfied with. And when they worked him out, Brian Billick said there was no doubt that Randall still had it. And when he's called upon, if Brad Johnson should take a little bit longer to develop as the starter, they still believe that Randall can make plays on his own. They don't expect him to read the defenses and fit into the offense as well, but they want him to make plays and maybe running for a few first downs or leading the team until Brad Johnson is ready to step back in. So the Vikings are very happy about that, and Randall is happy to be back in the NFL. Let's go back to New York and Chris Berman.
All right, Chris, wonder if Randall can still do that leap over Carl Banks like he once did. Well, the Vikings have a little more than 3 minutes to make their selection. The 20th overall pick. We shall return.
This is breakfast.
This is something McDonald's made famous.
This is our latest invention. Say good morning to the My Size meal.
Good morning, my size meal.
Now when you buy any drink, coffee, soft drink, orange juice,
Any size.
And hash browns.
you can get one of 4 hot breakfast sandwiches, like this sausage biscuit with egg, for just 55 cents.
55 cents.
Every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
55 cents every day?
I promise.
That's chicken feed.
This is fast.
I'm Carol Martin, and this is my McDonald's.
So I pull into this gas station.
Oh, classic oversqueeze.
Watch this.
Release the hounds. Perfect pump. 2037.
Even at the gas station, you can do more with the American Express card.
Hey, Dan. What's wrong?
Hey, Grant. Bad show. Hair looked bad, teleprompter went down, made some mistakes on some highlights.
I got something to cheer you up.
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate that.
No problem, Dan.
We're back at the draft and the new and improved theater in New York, with Minnesota providing a little theater. We had a minute and a half to go for their selection. Jacksonville next, the Eagles after that. We've got some theater on the mothership on the ESPN main network at 7:30 Eastern Time, Game 2. Mario Lemieux in his swan song. Lemieux, Yager, Ronnie Francis. They have what it takes to score enough goals to beat back their cross-state rivals, a team that's had their number, the Philadelphia Flyers, and Eric Lindros and John LeClaire, and the Legion of Doom. You want scoring? You got it in this game, the Penguins and the Flyers, Game 2. That's a little bit later as our draft continues after 7 Eastern Time on ESPN 2. Vikings have made their selection. Let's go up to the podium. And is it still Gene up there? Well, the commissioner is back. The Vikings are in business. And maybe I'm telling you what, they're getting some calls right up to here for a trade. I would not be surprised to see them trade down about 4, 5, 6, 7 spots.
To San Francisco?
Well, it might be one, but they're entertaining a lot of calls right now.
Why would San Francisco want to move up? Just as an
Can't get
example?
into it right now.
I'm sorry. Excuse me for asking
right now.
a draft-related question.
I was waiting for you and Jaws to finish that debate first. Well, I mean, Minnesota has said if their player, and I don't know who that player is not there, they'll take all the calls. And with 12 seconds left now on the clock, they've taken a lot of calls. Here it is.
They'll run this thing right down to 1 second. Watch this. He's starting to walk.
Well, Brad Johnson, Dennis Green doing that 2-minute drill. That's what they're doing right here.
With the 20th pick in the first round, the Minnesota Vikings select Dwayne Rudd, linebacker from Alabama. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock.
Now there's Dwayne, and he is relieved. I mean, hey, look, let's put it in perspective. First-round pick, I mean, that's a dream. At one time, people thought maybe Dwayne Rudd, top 10 or 12. Cornelius Bennett-type skills linebacker from Alabama. He's fallen a little bit. How come?
I don't think anybody really knew, Chris, exactly how Dwayne Rudd fit in. We know he's an outstanding athlete with great physical ability, but where did he fit in best? And I think in Minnesota, they're getting value at 20. He didn't drop that far. Maybe he could have been maybe the 8th, 10th pick, maybe the 14th. So dropping to 20 is not that big a fall for Dwayne Rudd. And he brings a lot of versatility to the table. He can play in the middle. He can play on the outside. 240-plus pounds, great upper body strength. A tremendous kid, works hard, was very productive at Alabama. People said he's not that instinctive. Look how they moved him around. You see him here coming after the quarterback from the middle. Mike Dubose, the defensive coordinator, now the head coach, shifted Rudd around, gave him a lot of responsibilities. He still showed up big at critical points in various games in a tough conference, the SEC. I like Dwayne Rudd. I think he's going to be a good player. It may take him just a little longer to fit in than, say, a James Farrior or even a Jamie Sharper, for that matter. But as we saw against Michigan, This play alone allowed Gene Stallings to go out a winner. Dwayne Rudd was a big play man, and when he did show up, it was when they needed him most.
I think the one thing you have to look at also in Minnesota plays what's called an under defense, which means that they wind up with an eagle backer. That's a backer that lines up inside the defensive end. So what happens in that circumstance is you need somebody who can flow and chase and run the football. I agree with you, Mel. I think his situation was, where do you really play him? I think he fits a perfect need for Minnesota as a linebacker who can run and chase and do the things he needs to do.
So Dwayne Rudd, the pick for the Minnesota Vikings, the Jacksonville Jaguars, one step away from the Super Bowl last year.